This is Atlantic Television Network. Welcome to Global News at 9 p.m. First, the highlights. Rivers State government partners filmmakers to promote tourism potentials. Tinubu hails Diri's defection to APC. No Christian persecution in Nigeria, defense chief. Naira stocks drop after Trump's military threat. China government warns US against interference in Nigeria. Gabon prepares for Super Eagles clash Thursday. I converted from Christianity to Islam, Burna Boy. Rivers State government has urged film producers, directors and scriptwriters in the state to use their platform to promote the people's rich cultural heritage. The secretary to the state government, Dr. Benibo Anabraba, who disclosed this when he received the delegation from the Rivers International Film Festival in Port Harcourt, said Governor Siminalayi Fubara appreciated the social, cultural and economic value of tourism, which informed his decision to embark on a public-private partnership to rehabilitate, develop and rebrand the Port Harcourt tourist beach, Borokri. Anabraba said the impact of tourism on the economy and social-cultural development provides environment for the protection of nature and entertainment, and also acknowledged delegates from Zimbabwe and Ghana while thanking them for their kind words on the hospitality and security experienced during their stay. The team lead of the Rivers International Film Festival, Kate Ezeibo, thanked Fubara for his support on the 2025 edition, held from October 30 to November 2, which featured 272 films from various countries. Founder and president of Christ Compassion to the Rural World, Pastor Matthew Ashimolo, has declared the 2025 crusade scheduled to hold from Monday, November 24 to Saturday, November 29, 2025, and is expected to ignite a spiritual revival across Port Harcourt with the theme, #This is Selfless Love. Pastor Matthew Ashimolo made the announcement at the press conference in Salvation Ministries Church, 37 George Sekibo Street off Aeroplane Drive, Abuloma, Port Harcourt. ATN News completes this report.
Founder and President of Christ Compassion to the Rural World, Pastor Matthew Ashimolo, has announced the 2025 crusade with the theme, "This is Selfless Love." Pastor Matthew Ashimolo, at a press conference in Salvation Ministry Church, 37 George Sekibo Street, off Airplane Drive, Abuloma, Port Harcourt, said the event is the third edition. He emphasized on the goal of the "This is Selfless Love" crusade to transform lives, strengthen unity among churches, and spread the love of Christ throughout the city of Port Harcourt and beyond. The clergyman, who also doubles as the founder of Kingsway International Christian Center, stated that the inspiration behind the Port Harcourt edition of the crusade came through prayer and divine revelation, adding that the event is targeting 30,000 souls for Christ.
We are believing God for a move of God, for salvation of souls, for deliverance of people. We are believing God to do awesome things. We are here not because we have money to splash out, but because we are mandated by the love of Christ. We are motivated by the love of Christ. We are here because we want to touch lives. We are here because Christ commands us to show His love. We are also here to work with the churches on ground. We're joining hands. We are only just the ones who are initiating it. It's now a vision of the body of Christ. It is now a vision of the whole churches that are on ground. All the souls who will give their lives to Christ, as we have done in the past, will take the cards of their decision and will put in the hands of the participating churches for them to follow up those souls. That is what we've always done.
The General Overseer of CCRW, Pastor Matthew Ashimolowo, further disclosed that the 5 days program will be divided for humanitarian outreach, including distribution of Christian books, Bibles, mattresses, packs of salt, sugar, rice, beans,
At the end of the crusade, we'll give them a coupon to collect things on Tuesday morning. They'll start distributing relief from 8 a.m. till about 2 p.m. That is quite a bit. That's like 6 hours of distributing relief. We're very glad, we're excited. We want to say a big thank you to all those who have cooperated with us, the ministers on ground, the churches. In fact, we are reaching a place where there are more volunteers than we ever thought we would have. We're looking to have 5,000, 6,000. We already have 9,000 people creating churches and churches. I also want to say a big thank you to His Excellency, the Governor of Rivers State. We celebrate His Excellency Governor Fubara for the largeness of his heart. We wrote him expressing the areas where we want government participation and help, and he has pledged 100% help, 100% assistance.
In her remarks, Nasara Kasugwa Washpam, Chief Operating Officer of CCRW, gave an overview of the event, explaining that the event goes beyond soul winning, describing it as a movement, a mandate, a message, and a demonstration of love. She further announced that the 3rd edition is scheduled to hold from Monday, November 24th to Saturday, November 29th, 2025, and expected to ignite a spiritual revival across Port Harcourt. She added that extensive planning has been done to ensure smooth execution, including security, transportation, welfare, and deliverance logistics. I am Alawuru Praise, ATN News, Port Harcourt.
Bayelsa State Guard Command of the Nigeria Police Force has begun a probe into the disappearance of a 24-year-old corps member, Mr. Levi Anyanwu, who was declared missing in the state. The newsman reliably gathered from a statement on Monday that operatives of the anti-kidnapping unit of the command have launched an investigation into the case to unravel the circumstances surrounding the incident. Anyanwu, whose primary assignment is at the Ijo National Academy, Kayama, headquarters of the Kolokuma and Opokuma local government area of the state, was reported missing on October 8, 2025. A statement by the police public relations officer, Mr. Musa Mohammed, the command directed the anti-kidnapping unit to take measures to locate and produce the corps member. It concluded that measures were still ongoing to consolidate law enforcement activities to enable a proper conclusion on the findings of the detectives. Edo State government has accused the administration of former Governor Godwin Obaseki of leaving behind a 600 billion naira debt burden, a claim the ex-governor's camp strongly denied. Addressing journalists as part of activities marking 1 year in office of Governor Mondo Pabelo, the Commissioner for Education, for Communication and Strategy, Mr. Prince Kasim Afegbua, alleged that the previous administration left huge financial liabilities, including 187 billion naira owed to contractors. Afegbua, who served on the Asset Verification Committee, also said the current government had begun investigations into major projects initiated by the Obaseki administration, and notably the Radisson Hotel and the Museum of West African Art, and alleged irregularities in its ownership structure. But in a swift rebuttal, Obaseki's special advisor on media, Crusoe Osagie, dismissed the allegations as false and diversionary, urging the Okpebholo administration to focus on governance instead of propaganda, insisting that the Obaseki administration left over 14 billion naira in various state accounts at the time of exit, including the Ekenyuan Road and Stella Obasanjo Hospital were ongoing at the time the administration left office. He challenged the Okpebholo administration to account for the billions it had received from the Federation account since assuming office in 2024, adding that activities to commemorate Okpebholo's first anniversary in office would include the inauguration of projects across the state's 3 senatorial districts from November 7 to 11. Imo State chapter of African Democratic Congress, ADC, has initiated a move to mobilize support groups across the 27 local government areas in the state in preparation for the 2027 general elections. The move was championed by the Directorate of Support Groups, Diamond Brian Ago, who hinted that the support groups include civil society organizations, CSOs, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, which were set up for grassroots mobilization and awareness. Speaking during an interactive session with the state chairman of the party and various support group leaders, Agu said the directorate remains the engine room for ADC's 2027 electoral victory, adding that the party's strength lies in its new political culture rooted in credibility, inclusiveness, accountability, and collective progress. The DG also said the party believes in leadership earned through credibility, conviction, and not manipulation or intimidation, stressing that in addition to the 10 existing registered support groups, 14 new groups have expressed interest in partnering with the Directorate of Support Groups to strengthen the party's grassroots presence. Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has approved a final register of 2,802,790 eligible voters for the November 8 governorship election in Anambra. Professor Joash Amopitun, the INEC chairman who disclosed this during the signing of the peace accord for the governorship off-cycle election by the National Peace Committee (NPC) in Awka, said the commission had finalized deployment plans for 24,000 personnel and election materials across 5,718 polling units, 326 ward collation centers, and 21 local government and state collection health centers in Awka. He reaffirmed the commission's resolve to combat vote buying during election, adding that any individual or group attempting to subvert the will of the people will be firmly dealt with in accordance with the law, and further urged the political parties, candidates, and their supporters to uphold the principles of the peace accord. The INEC boss also said signing of the peace accord represented a collective reaffirmation of stakeholders' commitment to non-violence and mutual respect throughout the election process, adding that the gesture underscored the shared responsibility of all parties to uphold peace and integrity before, during, and after the election. Amopitun expressed confidence in a credible electoral process, citing the proactive efforts of the security agencies, the strong support from traditional community and religious leaders, as well as the civil society, the media, and other stakeholders, and further expressed confidence that the committee's sustained engagement with stakeholders toward a shared vision of peace would leave a lasting impact on the nation's democracy. Suspected cause-related clash has claimed the lives of a barber and a tricycle operator in Ebonyi State, which occurred at Oriozo community in the Ezal North local government area of the state. The killings are believed to have been carried out by members of a rival cult group suspected to be members of the Vikings confraternity, storming the area and attacked two men identified as Ogele Ifeanyi and Nweke Emmanuel. The circumstances surrounding the death of the second victim, Emmanuel, remain unclear, while others described him as a tricycle operator who was not involved in any cult activities. Residents have expressed concern over the rising trend of cause-related violence in the community, calling on the government and security agencies to intervene, and the State Police Public Relations Officer SP Joshua Okwandu, who confirmed the killing, said no fewer than 3 persons were killed and over 10 houses burnt in Akboha community in the Afikpo North local government area of Ebonyi State when the two rival cults clashed. Lagos State government has advised the Supreme Court to uphold the conviction of Dr. Olufemi Olaleye, who was found guilty by the State High Court of defiling his wife's 16-year-old niece, but later acquitted by the Court of Appeal. Dr. Olufemi Olaleye, medical director of the Optimal Cancer Care Foundation, was originally sentenced to life imprisonment by the Lagos State Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Court in October 2023, and not satisfied with the Court of Appeal's ruling, the state government took the case to the Supreme Court, contesting the acquittal of Dr. Olaleye on defilement charges. But Dr. Olaleye, through his counsel Chief J. Okutepa San, filed an objection against the appeal, adding that in the preliminary objection, he prayed the Apex Court to strike out the appeal for want of competence, while in response to the preliminary objection, the state government urged the Supreme Court to dismiss the respondent's arguments, citing the reasons outlined in its brief of arguments dated August 18, 2025, and to uphold the appeal by restoring the trial court's judgment. In a detailed reply to Olaleye's preliminary objection, the state government contended that the respondent's application was misguided, baseless, and rooted in mere technicalities, adding that the state's ground of appeal rests on 4 major pillars, each pointing to why the Apex Court should affirm the conviction of Olaleye by the trial court. In ground 3, the state government wants the Apex Court to determine whether the issue of the age of the victim PW2, which was not contested, disputed, or raised during trial, can be made an issue at the appellate stage, and also whether the appellant has successfully proved the offences of defilement of a child contrary to Section 137 of the Criminal Law, Cap 17, Volume 3, including laws of Lagos State 2015 and sexual assault by penetration, contrary to Section 261 of the Criminal Law, Cap 17, and Volume 3 laws of Lagos State 2015, against the respondent to go beyond reasonable doubt as required by law. Osun State House of Assembly has adopted the passage of 2 bills, the Multi-Door Courthouse Establishment Bill and the Osun State Road Traffic Law and the Vehicle Inspection Service Bill 2025. The passage of the Alternative Disputes Resolution Bill came about a year after the lawmakers began work on it, while on October 29, 2024, the Assembly commenced consideration of the Osun State Multi-Door Court Establishment Bill 2025, which seeks to provide opportunities for alternative disputes resolution. A statement by the Chief Press Secretary to the Speaker, Olamide Tiamiyu, described the bill as a landmark move aimed at reforming the judicial system in the state, and when passed, it would assist in implementation of alternative disputes resolution mechanisms, thereby reducing the burden on courts and enhancing more timely and effective justice delivery for the people. Presenting the key policy objectives of the bill at plenary, Popular said it had the potential to provide diverse options for dispute resolution, including mediation, arbitration, and conciliation. Addressing the parliament, the Speaker Adewale Egbedun commended members for their commitment to the welfare of the people and overall development of the state, adding that clean copies of the bills will be forwarded to Governor Ademola Adeleke for his assent. Kwara State Governor Abdulrahman Abdulrazak has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to turning the state into Nigeria's leading hub for technology and innovation, as he rewarded outstanding students innovators at the Kwara Futures Exhibition 2025 in Ilorin. The event, themed Kwara Futures, empowering a digitally ready generation, showcased the creativity of young coders and inventors trained under the Kwara Coding and Digital Literacy Program, a state-led initiative that has trained over 5,604 students across 50 public schools in all 16 local government areas of the state between August 2024 and October 2025. Governor Abdulrazak, who presented cash awards to top-performing schools, said the exhibition reflected the government's strategic vision to build a generation of problem solvers equipped for the global digital economy. Abdulrazak further commended Honorable Kayode Ishola, the Special Assistant to the Governor on Digital Innovations, for leading the program, describing the initiative as a legacy project that bridges the gap between education and opportunity. Senator Natasha Akpotu-Uduaghan, PDP, and Kogi Central has cried out that Nigerian immigration officers seize her passport at an airport, preventing her from traveling abroad. Over the weekend, Akpotu-Uduaghan celebrated her second anniversary in the Senate by commissioning projects in Kogi Central. The lawmaker went live on Instagram at the airport as she questioned immigration officials over the alleged confiscation of her passport and accused Senate President Godswill Akpabio of giving the order for her passport to be seized, describing the action as an unlawful restriction of her movement and a gross violation of our fundamental rights. According to the senator, it was only after the intervention of a certain influential person that her passport was released the last time such an incident occurred, and also claimed that President Bola Tinubu had instructed the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, to withdraw all cases in the court filed by the federal government against her. Akpotu-Uduaghan's passport was later released by the immigration officials. This is coming after Kogi legislator was involved in a high-profile dispute with Akpabio in February over seat reallocation in the Senate, which escalated into her 6-month suspension effective March 6, 2025. Senator Natasha, however, resumed her duties on September 24, 2025. Ruling All Progressives Congress has won all the chairmanship state seats in the elections conducted in all the 25 local government areas of Niger State. The party also won 271 of the councillorship seats in the 25 local government areas, while the opposition People's Democratic Party clinched only 3 seats in Tafa and Rafi local government areas. The election was held on November 1 with over 10 political parties fielding candidates for the electoral positions. The Commissioner for Operations, Niger State Independent Electoral Commission, Mohammed Liman, who released a statement of the outcome of the election, said certificates of return would be issued to the winners across the 25 local governments of the state. The election witnessed apathy and violence in some of the local government areas, although the state governor, Mohammed Bago, said the election had a large turnout in his local government area. Kebbi State Police Command has rescued 6 kidnapped victims on Hot in Donko following a fierce gun battle with armed bandits in Danko and Wasago local government area of the state. A statement by the Police Public Relations Officer, CSP Nafiu Abubakar, said the rescue operation was part of ongoing efforts to clamp down on banditry and all other violent crimes in the state, and the incident occurred on Saturday when about a dozen armed bandits invaded Ukuhu, Tunga Wazga and Ungunwa Chiroma villages, kidnapping 10 residents afterwards. The statement said search and rescue operations are ongoing to free the remaining 4 victims and arrest the fleeing suspect, while the Commissioner of Police CP Bello M. Sani commended the DPO and his team for their swift response and professionalism. He reaffirmed the command's commitment to protecting lives and property and urged residents to continue supporting the police with timely and credible information to help combat insecurity in the state. 13 male inmates who had been unlawfully detained for periods ranging from 1 to 6 years without trial have regained their freedom, and development follows a landmark judgment of the Federal High Court delivered in Jalingo, Taraba State. The inmates who expressed overwhelming joy as they stepped out of the detention were released through the intervention of human rights lawyer Barrister John Okeze, who represented them pro bono after filing separate fundamental rights enforcement suits against the Nigeria Police Force (NPF) and the Department of State Services (DSS), challenging their unlawful detention. Delivering judgment, Justice Masco Salusi described the prolonged incarceration of the men as a flagrant violation of their constitutional rights and ordered their immediate release and awarded a total of 48 million naira in damages against the security agencies. He further warned that law enforcement agencies must operate strictly within the bounds of the law and respect the fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, adding that the detainees had been held in various facilities across the state for years without being charged to court. In each case, Justice Salusi ruled that their rights to liberty and fair hearing had been grossly violated, condemning the actions of the security agencies as reprehensible and unlawful. Kano State's Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf has directed all 44 local government councils to convene regular security meetings as part of renewed efforts to strengthen grassroots intelligence gathering and community vigilance across the state. The directive followed the State Security Council meeting held at Government House, Kano, and the statement by the governor's spokesperson, Sanusi Bature Dawakin Tofa, said the governor advised that frequent security meetings at the local level had become essential to detecting early warning signs, coordinating timely responses, and improving collaboration between communities and security agencies. The call comes amid rising security concerns, particularly after gunmen suspected to be bandits attacked Faru Ruwa in Shanono local government area earlier in the week, which residents said was carried out by dozens of armed men riding over 25 motorcycles, and while one person was killed, livestock were carted away and a phone shop was looted. The incident heightened fears among villagers, leading to renewed calls for the government's intervention in border communities vulnerable to infiltration, and also sympathized with residents affected by recent attacks and assured them of the government's strengthened efforts to protect all communities across the state. Jigawa State Police Command has arrested 4 suspects, while 3 others escaped during a late-night vandalism attempt at the Dangote Rice Mill in Hadin Town, while efforts are ongoing to apprehend the fleeing suspects. This is coming after Jigawa State had witnessed a troubling rise in vandalism targeting public infrastructure, prompting police crackdowns on wire thieves to protect critical assets such as power grids and industrial sites, confirming the development in the statement in Duse. The State Police Public Relations Officer SP Shisu Adam said operatives from the 35 Squadron Police Mobile Force arrested the most suspects around 11 p.m. on October 29 at the mill in Kaogama local government area, adding that the suspects were caught uncoiling electric aluminium wires within the company premises. He quoted the State Commissioner of Police CP Dahiru Muhammad urging residents to stay alert and report any suspicious activities to local stations, stressing that the command arrested 5 suspects, including a woman, in 2 separate armed robbery cases, while a 6th remains at large, with stolen properties comprising livestock recovered in a bold crackdown on local crime. You're watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. President Bola Tinubu has appointed Dr. Kingsley Tochukwu Udesan from Enugu State as the new Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, and the appointment comes after the recent resignation of Geoffrey Uche Nnaji from the same position. In a letter sent to the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, the President has requested lawmakers to confirm Dr. Ude's appointment in line with constitutional requirements. Dr. Ude currently serves as the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Enugu State.
In compliance with the provisions of Section 147, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, I am pleased to forward to the Senate the nomination of Dr. Kingsley Tochukwu Ude San, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, for confirmation as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. While I hope that this request will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the Senate, please accept, distinguished Senate President and distinguished Senators, the assurances of my highest regards. This is signed by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and is hereby referred to the Committee of the Whole for immediate consideration.
In another development, President Tinubu has also written to the Senate seeking approval for a fresh 1.15 trillion naira borrowing from the domestic debt market. This borrowing is intended to finance the deficit in the 2025 budget, adding that the funds will help bridge the fiscal gap and ensure full implementation of government programs and projects planned for the year 2025.
I write to kindly request for the approval of the National Assembly to establish a 1,150 billion naira, that is 1.150 trillion, borrowing program in the domestic debt market to close the unfunded deficit gap created by the increase in the budget size over and above the prior approved revenue and borrowing plans. This request is pursuant to the provisions of Section 44, subsection 1 to 2 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, FRA, of 2007.
President Bola Tinubu is set to conclude the appointment of ambassadors to Nigeria's foreign missions worldwide after months of diplomatic gaps and growing pressure over the country's absence of envoys abroad. Multiple presidency officials familiar with the development said the president had ordered a further cleanup of the list of nominees ahead of its release, while the Senate had already screened the nominees to ensure that no one due for retirement remained on the list. However, a revision became necessary after several nominees passed away, took new appointments, or opted out due to ill health, and development comes more than 2 years after Tinubu's September 2023 decision to recall all ambassadors from Nigeria's 109 foreign missions comprising 76 embassies, 22 high commissions, and 11 consulates as part of a comprehensive diplomatic review. Since then, most missions have been headed by charges d'affaires or senior consular officers with limited authority to represent Nigeria in formal negotiations, and the push to conclude the ambassadorial appointments comes amid recent diplomatic tension following comments by former U.S. President Donald Trump, who threatened military intervention in Nigeria over alleged killings of Christians. He later claimed to have instructed congressional Republicans to investigate the matter and report back to him, and Trump said he had ordered the U.S. Department of War to prepare for possible action in Nigeria over the alleged killings. President Bola Tinubu has described the defection of Governor Doye Dirila of Bayelsa State from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, as a symbol of progress and unity. President Tinubu, who was represented by his vice, Kashim Shettima, commended Diri's leadership style and commitment to development, welcoming him officially into the APC. Tinubu applauded Diri for promoting peace and unity through infrastructural growth across the state, describing Diri's defection as a homecoming to the progressive family. Senate has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the recurring derailment on the nation's rail lines and assess the integrity of Nigeria's railway infrastructure. The committee, to be chaired by Senator Adams Oshomole, is expected to conduct a thorough probe, including a public hearing into the causes of the frequent derailment, the quality of materials used, and the state of imported rail components. Lawmakers also mandated the Nigerian Railway Corporation to immediately fix the technical faults responsible for the incident and restore full operational capacity across the rail network. And as part of its mandate, the committee will examine the terms and utilization of loans obtained from China for railway projects. It has since 6 weeks to submit its report to the Senate. The resolution followed a motion of urgent national importance sponsored by Senator Ede Dafinon on Tuesday over the recent derailment on the Ujevu-Itakpe train line, which occurred barely 4 days after service resumed, while Nigerian Railway Corporation confirmed that 2 of the 7 coaches of the Warri-Itakpe train derailed around Agbo, Delta State. A statement signed by its managing director Kayode Opeifa, the NRC attributed the incident to possible vandalism, but assured that no casualties were recorded, adding that the investigation would help uncover lapses in railway operations, ensure accountability in the use of public funds, and enhance passenger safety nationwide. House of Representatives has adjourned plenary till Tuesday, 11th November 2025, following barricade by local contractors due to unresolved payment by the federal government since 2024. The resolution followed the motion of urgent public importance raised during plenary by the House Minority Leader, Honorable Kingsley Chinda Rivers, who called on the federal government to interface with the local contractors to resolve the matter, noting that the protest carried out by the local contractors at the entrance gate of the National Assembly has disrupted movement to the complex. In his reaction, the member representing Safe and Gusu, Federal Constituency of Zamfara State, Honorable Kabiru Amadu, moved the motion for the House adjournment of plenary for 1 week to enable them resolve the issue with the federal government.
The President instructed that the ministers should immediately effect payment of local contractors and execution of the budgets. The said instruction was not implemented several weeks thereafter. The House further notes that the non-payment of local contractors has worked severe hardship on both the local contractors and indeed the Nigerian populace, and that this has brought tension and increased poverty in our country. Consequently, the House is urged to resolve that the Minister of Finance, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, and the Accountant General of the country be given 7 days to make the aforesaid payments of all outstanding bills to local contractors for 2024 and implement the 2025 budget. The House further is called upon to mandate the leadership of the House to ensure implementation and strict compliance with the aforesaid resolution and report back to the House within 1 week.
In view of the motion that was a super urgent motion that was just moved by the minority leader and seconded by the majority leader, I also want to move another urgent motion, Mr. Speaker, that this House should adjourn sitting and all activities of the House until 1 week when we hear from the executive about this issue.
All activities of the House?
Yes, all activities.
Let me hear him first before
all
you carry.
Activities, sitting and all activities, Mr. Speaker.
Please, can you repeat yourself?
Sitting and all activities.
There is a motion that has been moved by Honorable my Palace and seconded by the Chairman Rules and Business, that based on the fact that the road is blocked by these contractors and that we will not be able to access here easily within the week, that we adjourn till next week to enable us consult with the executive and rectify this within 1 week. Those in support of that motion say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The House had gone into a closed-door session that lasted for over an hour following the division of members at plenary presided over by the Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kalu. The call for division of the House started when a motion of urgent public importance on the need to investigate the alleged illegal allocation of federal government land at the Lagos International Trade Fair Complex that was raised by Honorable Ademorin Kuye was eventually killed after an extensive debate on which committee is mandated to carry out the investigation. Following a voice voice vote called by the presiding officer, which could not resolve the argument. The motion was therefore rejected, leading to disagreement, whereby other motions, including the United States of America stance on alleged genocide in Nigeria, raised for deliberation on the floor, was rejected by all, and a closed-door session was held thereafter. Former military head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar, retired, has warned that recent comment by United States President Donald Trump pose a serious threat to Nigeria's unity and peace, adding that Nigeria as a country of particular concern could create unnecessary tension and division if not handled carefully. He described the remark as a grave threat to the country's hard-won unity and urged Nigerians to remain calm and not allow external forces to divide them, while appealing to citizens to put aside their differences and stand together in defense of the nation's sovereignty. The former leader also called on the United States to support Nigeria's efforts in tackling insecurity through partnership rather than criticism, stressing that Nigeria must continue to engage in quiet diplomacy to address any misunderstandings and protect its national interests. Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Toga says the Nigerian constitution does not allow religious persecution. Toga, who disclosed this in a statement on Tuesday at a press brief conference in Berlin, Germany, was reacting to the United States President Donald Trump's threat of military intervention over the killing of Christians in Nigeria. This is coming after Trump said on social media over the weekend that he had asked the Pentagon to map out a possible plan of attack due to killings of Christians in very large numbers, adding that Nigeria has a constitutional commitment to religious freedom and rule of law, and Toga warned against any attempts to divide Nigeria along religious lines as he drew parallels with Sudan. Trump has not suggested any division of Nigeria along religious lines, but claims that thousands of Christians are being killed and radical Islamists are responsible for the mass slaughter, stressing that Nigeria has denied that Christians have been targeted by jihadist attacks more than any other faiths. Christian Association of Nigeria in the 19 northern states and Abuja has urged peace-loving Christians and Muslims to use U.S. President Donald Trump's recent statement on alleged killing genocide in Nigeria as a call for unity, collective action, and peaceful coexistence. The chairman of the association, Reverend John Hayab, said rather than viewing Trump's comments as divisive, Nigerians should see them as an opportunity to work together to end killings and religious intolerance across the country. This is coming after Trump had, in a recent statement, alleged that Christians in Nigeria were facing persecution and urged global attention to the situation, and his remarks have since stirred public debate within and outside the country. The CAN chairman therefore said that statement should serve as a wake-up call for both faith communities to demand concrete steps from the government to ensure the safety and freedom of all citizens, irrespective of religion or identity, stressing that a fair reading of Trump's words reveals concern rather than condemnation and portrays the voice of an outsider, urging Nigerians to uphold peace and unity. Hayab cautioned against individuals or groups who might twist the former U.S. leader's remarks to fuel division among Nigerians and further appeal to religious leaders, government authorities and citizens to prioritize peace building and genuine national reconciliation. Chief of Defense Staff General Olufemi Oluyede has dismissed claims of Christian persecution in this country, insisting that the country's main security challenge remains terrorism. Speaking in Abuja, Oluyede dismissed the claim by U.S. President Donald Trump that Islamic terrorists were targeting and killing Christians, adding that the armed forces had been working relentlessly to combat terrorism and improve national security, while recent efforts by President Bola Tinubu to restructure the nation's security system are already strengthening operations. Oluyede assured Nigerians that the military would intensify its campaigns against terrorists and other criminal elements across the country, and terrorism is not peculiar to Nigeria, describing it as a global issue that requires international cooperation. He reaffirmed the military's commitment to restoring peace and stability nationwide, while urging Nigerians and international partners to continue supporting the country's counter-terrorism efforts, stressing that the comment sparked widespread criticism, prompting President Tinubu to issue an official statement reaffirming Nigeria's commitment to democracy and religious freedom. In a post on his X handle, Tinubu said Nigerian constitution guarantees freedom of religion and that the administration maintains active engagement with leaders of all faiths to promote peace and security, and also rejected foreign narratives portraying Nigeria as religiously intolerant, describing them as inaccurate and unreflective of the nation's diversity and unity. He further pledged to continue working with the United States and other global partners to deepen mutual understanding and protect communities of all faiths. Chief of the Naval Staff, Vice Admiral E.D. Abbas, has approved the appointment and the redeployment of 65 rear admirals across various commands, institutions, and departments within the Nigerian Navy and the Armed Forces. A statement by the Director of Information, Nigerian Navy Commodore A. Adams Aliyu, said the large-scale postings affect officers serving at the Naval Headquarters, Defense Headquarters, Tri-Service Institutions, Naval Commands and subsidiaries, and the redeployments follow Abbas's assumption of office as the 23rd Indigenous Chief of the Naval Staff. This is coming after President Bola Tinubu had earlier carried out a major shake-up in the military hierarchy, replacing all the service chiefs respectively, following the resumption of their new leaders. Among the senior officers redeployed, Rear Admiral Suleiman Abdullahi moves from the Defense Headquarters to the Naval Headquarters as Chief of Logistics. Rear Admiral Kasim Boshi was appointed Executive Director of the International Maritime Institute of Nigeria, while Rear Admiral Suleiman Dahun becomes Director of Defense Corporation at the Defense Headquarters. Others include Rear Admiral Anenechukwu Ezema, posted to the Defense Headquarters as Director, Lessons Learned. Rear Admiral Samuel Ngatuwa, appointed Director of Project Management, and Rear Admiral Ibrahim Shehu, who retains his position as Admiral Superintendent of the Naval Dockyard Limited, as well as others. In the naval subsidiaries and commercial entities, Rear Admiral Peter Zakaria was appointed Executive Director, Administration and Human Resources, Navy Holdings Limited, while Rear Admiral Olufemi Adeleke becomes Director of Cyber Security at the Defense Space Agency, and in addition, Rear Admiral Musiu Yusuf becomes Director of Marine Engineering, Rear Admiral Kolawole Oguntuga, Director of Manning at Naval Headquarters, and Rear Admiral Mohammed Muye, Commandant of the Naval War College, and all postings take immediate effect. Nigeria's police force has denied reports alleging that it compelled its personnel nationwide to purchase a handbook titled Attitudinal Change Handbook for the Nigeria Police Force at the cost of 2,000 naira per officer. An online report said police authorities directed all personnel to pay the sum for the book, reportedly making the purchase compulsory with a deadline set for Thursday, and the approval was convened in a letter dated May 28, 2025, from the Department of Training and Development Force Headquarters, Abuja, introducing the author, Dr. Joseph Danley. According to the letter signed by the Commissioner of Police Training, Rashid Afebua, on behalf of the Deputy Inspector General of Police, the author was granted permission to market the handbook directly to interested officers who wish to purchase it voluntarily. When contacted, the Force Public Relations Officer Benjamin Hundeyin dismissed the report as misleading, adding that the purchase of the handbook was entirely voluntary, and also clarified the background of the initiative. The author of the book, Danley, while the publication was part of an effort to improve professionalism and ethics within the police force. He said he had initially proposed charging 25,000 naira for the training, but the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, made it free and had personally delivered copies of the handbook to several state commands, whereby officers agreed to get the book voluntarily. Stakeholders of the All Progressives Congress in Delta State have renewed calls for the creation of Anyoma State, urging the National Assembly to address what they describe as a long-standing injustice in Nigeria's state structure, particularly in the southeast. The group said Anyoma's elevation to statehood was long overdue and essential to correcting the geopolitical imbalance that has left the southeast with only 5 states. In a letter dated November 3, 2025, and signed by its chairman, Chief Adizwe Eluaka, the APC Delta North Senatorial District said the demand for Anyoma State represents the collective and united position of the people of Delta North, adding that there was no dissenting voice across the Senatorial District, and the agitation reflects the long-standing aspiration of the Anyoma people rooted in their historical and cultural identity. Eluak commended Senator Ned Nwoko for spearheading the latest legislative push for Anyoma State, stressing that his bill to redress the southeast numerical disadvantage in state distribution had given the movement renewed momentum, and further described the Anyoma proposal as the most comprehensive state creation bill before the National Assembly, saying it enjoys broad national sympathy and legitimacy. Recalling the suffering of Anyoma people during the Civil War due to their perceived Igbo identity, Eluaka said the creation of the state would represent an act of healing and historical justice, and urged the National Assembly and President Bola Tinubu to review the proposal as a national unification project that reflects the state's responsiveness to the aspirations of Nigerians. Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has decried the worsening state of Nigeria's democracy, stressing that the country's electoral process has been hijacked by a privileged few who have turned votes into commodities for trade. President of the NLC, Joe Ajeru, who made this known in Abuja during a public presentation of The report on electoral trust and the Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) signing ceremony organized by the International Press Center said the political class had betrayed the people's sovereign will, adding that what ought to be the sacred arena for expressing the people's mandate has been transformed into a marketplace where votes are auctioned and democracy subverted by the powerful. He commended the initiative of the IPC, describing its collaboration with the Nigeria Association of Women Journalists, NAWOJ, and the Guide of Corporate Online Publishers as a vital act of resistance, stressing that the organizations representing the critical fronts of gender-insensitive reporting and a dynamic digital space are positioned to tear down the veils of deceit and can ensure that the public is not just informed but empowered. The NLC president reminded journalists that the working class and the suffering masses were watching closely, adding that only integrity and courage could rebuild public trust. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court has given Biafra Nation agitator Nnamdi Kanu till November 5 to defend the terrorism charges against him or waive his rights to do so. The judge urged him to consult with legal practitioners conversant with criminal law to aid his defense or opt for a lawyer to handle his case, and the judge's decision followed Kanu's persistent refusal to present his defense to the terrorism charges on the grounds that there was no valid charge against him. Kanu, who declared his appearance for himself on Tuesday, told the court that he would not return to detention unless the charges against him were clearly shown to him, adding that his detention at the facility of the Department of State Services (DSS) was illegal and unlawful because there was no known law he had breached. Kanu accused the court of violating Supreme Court's judgment that condemned his extraordinary rendition from Kenya and demanded that the judge must immediately discharge him, insisting that the terrorism charge against him was incompetent, invalid, and illegal following Section 36, Paragraph 12 of 1999 Constitution, stressing that the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act has been repealed. And after much persuasion and his insistence not to defend the charge, Justice Omotosho, in a brief remark, adjourned further hearing till November 5 for Kanu to either enter his defense or waive his rights to do so. At Tuesday's press proceedings, counsel to the federal government, Adegboyega Awomolo, drew the court's attention to some documents served on him by Kanu, adding that the documents were worthless and had no probative value because they were not signed or endorsed by the court, and further urged the court to discountenance the documents, permit him to adopt his final address and fix a date for judgment. Medical services have been completely paralyzed at the Federal University of Lafayette Teaching Hospital following the nationwide strike declared by the National Association of Resident Doctors (NARD). Eyewitnesses said the facility, all patients on admission had been evacuated, while health workers across various units, including the emergency, outpatients, and antenatal departments, had abandoned their duty posts. The nationwide strike, which began last Saturday, is already taking a heavy toll on citizens who depend on the hospital for health care, and during a monitoring exercise to ensure compliance, the NARD State President Dr. Jude Yepowudu led members of the association's leadership team on an inspection tour of different sections of the hospital. Dr. Yepowudu lamented the deteriorating working conditions of health workers, especially resident doctors in public health institutions, blaming the situation on government's poor commitments to their welfare. Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAMB) has approved the extension of the 2025 admissions deadline for public universities from Friday, October 30, 2025 to Monday, November 17, 2025. A statement by its public communication advisor, Dr. Fabian Benjamin, said the decision became necessary due to emergent and compelling circumstances affecting the timely completion of the admission process by some institutions. This is the 2025 policy meeting on admissions held on July 18, 2025, under the chairmanship of the Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Tunji Alausa, had approved 31 October 2025 as deadline for all public universities to conclude admissions. According to the board, the timeline is strategically set to enable other tiers of tertiary institutions, including private universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and innovation enterprise institutions, to finalize their respective admissions before the overall national closing date of December 31, 2025. While commending the diligence and commitment of universities that had worked tirelessly to meet the earlier deadline, JAMB said the extension became inevitable for two key reasons, and the new date was final and binding, urging all public universities to ensure full compliance. And now to some business news. Federal government, through the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, alongside leading banks and private sector investors, have launched a fresh push to harness over $20 billion in annual diaspora remittances to drive national economic growth. According to a statement, NIDCOM is to hold the 8th Nigerian Diaspora Investment Summit in conjunction with the Nigerian Diaspora Summit Initiative as part of efforts to channel the $20 billion diaspora inflows into productive investment that will spur national development. The statement said the summit scheduled to be held from 11 to 13 November 2025 at the State House, Abuja, is themed fast-tracking regional and national development by mobilizing diaspora investment seeks to convert diaspora wealth, skills, and innovation into ventures that contribute to Nigeria's economic transformation. The statement said the NDIS 2025, viewed as a hybrid event, would bring together diaspora investors, business leaders, and policymakers to explore investment-ready projects across key sectors, including energy, real estate, finance, and technology, and will also feature keynote sessions, investment pitches, exhibitions, and high-level networking opportunities. Nigeria's financial markets began November 2025 on a sour note as the Naira and equities weakened sharply following remarks by United States President Donald Trump, who threatened possible military action against Nigeria over alleged religious persecution. Data from the Central Bank of Nigeria showed that the Naira, which had traded at a 2025 peak of 1,421.73 Naira to a dollar, depreciated to 1,436.34 Naira to a dollar on Monday, marking a 1.3% decline of 14 Naira 61 kobo loss in one day. The currency also weakened at the parallel markets to 1,455 Naira to a dollar, reflecting increased investor anxiety and foreign exchange demand pressure. The sudden depreciation followed the weekend of heightened geopolitical tension after Trump, via his Truth social platform, labeled Nigeria a country of particular concern and directed the U.S. Department of War to prepare for possible action should alleged killings of Christians persist. According to Trump, the move was a response to what he described as a Christian genocide in Nigeria, a claim that sparked global debate and uncertainty about diplomatic and economic implications for Africa's largest economy. As markets await clarity on U.S. policy and Nigeria's diplomatic response, analysts say sustained stability will depend on calm confidence-building measures and consistent macroeconomic policy from the federal government and the CBN. Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority has concluded plans to introduce a new $11.50 levy on all international air tickets for inbound and outbound passengers, a move that could yield over $1 billion in revenue over the next 2 decades. The new charge, classified as a security fee, is tagged the Advanced Passenger Information System levy and will be added to the existing $20 security charge, bringing total security-related ticket fees to $31.50 per passenger. According to the NCAA, the charge aims to strengthen aviation security and enhance passenger data management in line with international standards, and the fee will remain in force for 20 years with proceeds directed toward improving safety, infrastructure, and passenger profiling systems across Nigerian airports. A memo signed by the NCAA Director General Captain Chris Najomo and addressed to airlines said the APIS charge would be automatically deducted at the point of ticket sale, and the airlines are expected to update their ticketing systems ahead of implementation to accommodate the new fee. The plan has drawn sharp criticism from aviation stakeholders, while President of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association of Nigeria, Alex Umuba, described the new levy as another blow to travelers and Nigeria's already burdened aviation sector. Minister of Marine and Blue Economy Adegboyega Oyetola has described the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway as a transformative national project that will serve as an economic artery connecting opportunity, innovation, and prosperity across Nigeria's coastline. Oyetola, who made the remarks at the Southwest Citizen and Government Engagement Summit held in Akure, Ondo State, said the platform will urge leaders across the Southwest to seize the vast economic prospects opened by the multi-billion naira coastal highway by developing complementary tourism and infrastructure projects. A statement by his media aide, Dr. Bolaji Akinola, Oyetola said the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway is more than a transport corridor and represents a catalyst for trade, investment, and sustainable regional development. That the project will boost coastal tourism, hospitality, and small and medium-scale enterprises while opening new economic corridors that can drive inclusive growth. He added that the Southwest region in particular stands to benefit immensely from the initiative through job creation, increased investment inflows, and the promotion of its rich cultural and natural assets. The former Osun State governor also commended President Bola Tinubu for what he described as visionary leadership, especially in expanding Nigeria's continental shelf by 16,300 square kilometers, thereby extending the country's maritime boundary by approximately 20 nautical miles in some areas. He said the development marked a major stride in strengthening Nigeria's sovereign rights over vast new areas of the seabed, unlocking immense economic, scientific, and environmental opportunities, and called for stronger collaboration between the federal government and southwest states to accelerate progress in port modernization, maritime safety, fisheries, and non-oil export developments, critical areas of Nigeria's blue economy strategy. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, another look at the major stories. Rivers State government partners filmmakers to promote tourism potentials. Tinubu hails Diri's defection to APC. No Christian persecution in Nigeria, defense chief. Naira stocks drop after Trump's military threat. China government warns US against interference in Nigeria. Gabon prepares for Super Eagles clash Thursday. I converted from Christianity to Islam, Burna Boy. I am Favor Chikwesri Michael. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on social media platforms on Twitter at Atlantic TV Network, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. And don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching, and you have a wonderful night rest.